Welcome in to the next episode of Havlicek Stole the Pod. I am going solo as your host today. Alex is taking the day off. I'm here with Thunder Wire's Clemente Almanza, and we are going to talk all things Oklahoma City Thunder, Indiana Pacers in the finals, as well as some overlap between some members of that and the other team in the finals that have a relationship to the Celtics. And of course, as we usually do, we'll do the news. But first, Clemente, it's early as hell in the morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Just, made it to Indianapolis last night. Both teams are about to have practice availability here in a couple of hours. Series tied 1-1. So we're about to play a decisive game 3 that I really think is going to tell a lot about how the rest of the series is going to play out.
Indeed, yeah. We can talk about the series a bit more in depth in a minute, but for all the handling of it being small market teams and who's going to want to watch this, it's been one of the most compelling series I've seen in the finals in quite some time. So I'm pretty excited for you. Let's get into the news. As far as the Celtics go, Jason Tatum has resurfaced on his socials. He's not saying very much, but saying things are getting a little bit easier, which is very reassuring to Celtics fans, as I'm sure you can imagine. Jaylen Brown has been hosting another 741 performance pop-up this past Saturday. He's been staying in Boston offseason. You think that might be kind of a not-so-subtle message to the front office that he is really part of this community, and boy, would it be a shame to move him?
Yeah, from the outside looking in, I know Tatum's probably out for all of next year with the torn Achilles and all that. But I still think they got I know they might be moving some guys to shed payroll, like Drew Holiday and maybe even, I guess, Porzingis as well, or Derek White, or one of those guys at least. But I still like this Boston team next year. I think they have the potential to be a top 4 seed. Jaylen Brown's had his up and downs, I guess, and, he's had his fair share of criticisms, but I think he can be a good enough number one, especially in the East, where I think they could, at the very least, be a top 6 team and kind of avoid the play-in.
Yeah, the East is not exactly wrapping itself in glory after the top 4. So this season either. We just heard some news actually too recently that Darius Garland's going to be missing a good chunk of the start of the season as well. So it's going to be even softer on the top than anticipated. On a less injury-related note, we seem to have gotten a glimpse. It's not confirmed, but we seem to have gotten a glimpse as to the new City Edition jerseys. The Celtics one, actually, I think is pretty nice. It's a recolor gold and white of the 17-18 City Editions. Did you get a chance to look at the Oklahoma Cities?
Yeah, I think they're remixing their indigenous one from a few years ago that was on the Russ PG team. I don't know. Here locally, a lot of the fans love that jersey. If you actually go to the OKC Bombing Memorial Museum, they actually have one on display there as well from that season. So it's pretty cool that I've heard rumors that they were gonna do for next year's City Edition jersey. They're gonna do a throwback to old editions, and it's pretty cool that that's the one that they chose because it was pretty universally praised here for sure.
I think it looks pretty sharp, personally. I think they, I'm going to say this out loud, did a good job with the City Editions. And it feels weird to say that based on, the last several years, but they seem to have responded to the criticism and gotten out of the really left field and not connected jerseys. They went back and really connected things, and I think a way that maybe it's not the ideal jersey that some of us might want, but I think it's a lot better than some of the stuff that they were coming up with.
No, yeah, for sure. I'm not the biggest, I guess, jersey aficionado, but I know a lot of people have strong opinions on it. But I don't know for OKC side of things, and I saw Boston's as well. They're cool with me. They're fine with me.
Sure. Well, other news: Guerschon Yabusele, former Boston Celtic big man, most recently Philadelphia 76ers big man, had a Hoops Hype interview. He touched on his time with Boston. Kind of expanded on some comments he made elsewhere recently, making it clear that he had no ill will for the lack of playing time he had in Boston. And his attitude about that in the interview really speaks to his maturity. He's going to be a free agent. I would not mind him back in Boston as a depth option. I don't think they're going to be able to afford him after the season he had with Philly last year. Celtics coach Joe Mazzulla is in Turkey scouting a one Nigel Hayes-Davis, a 6'7" forward who can shoot the three, rebound, and currently holds the EuroLeague's modern scoring record of 50 points for a single game scoring. And there's been lots of speculation about trades that you were kind of touching on earlier. Chris Mannix was talking about maybe JB would be a good fit in San Antonio. Tim Bontemps, of course, talking about Horford being poachable by the Knicks, but very scant actual reports. Mark Stein has said that Boston is most definitely listening on calls for Drew Holiday, however, which implies he has a market because he said calls as in the plural. Do you think he has any value, any trade value to teams on the NBA right now?
Oh yeah, I definitely think so. Especially, considering this is a very copycat league, and I'm sure you're seeing plenty of people seeing what someone like Alex Caruso has done for the Thunder this year, where they kind of slow played his regular season for the playoffs, and now you're seeing the benefits of that, where you're having this guy come off the bench for you, being one of your top 5 players, be part of closing lineups, be this defensive menace. Drew Holiday probably fits in a similar mold as well. We've seen Holiday, help 2 teams win titles recently in Milwaukee and Boston. He's always been, one of the best, one of the premier defenders in the league. I know he's a little bit on the older side of things now, but I mean, like I said, this is a copycat league. I bet you a ton of front offices are seeing what OKC is doing. And a lot of them are saying like what Caruso's done for them this year, and they could probably convince themselves that Holiday could be their guy for them in a similar role where he might be load managed during the regular season, but in the playoffs he's playing like 25, 30 minutes off the bench, being a big time contributor and winning you playoff games.
I think so too. I think some names out there like Dallas in particular would make a lot of sense. They've been mentioned, but that is not the only person we are hearing some rumbles about. Michael Scotto of Hoops Hype has been reporting that rival executives think, and this is not exactly a surprise because a lot of us also thought this, that Boston will try to deal Kristaps Porzingis and Sam Hauser, to your point. Do you think that KP has any value as an expiring contract or as a player? And what about Sam Hauser?
I think Porzingis has value for a team that's like on the cusp, who believe they're on the cusp of making a deep playoff run, winning a title, because, I mean, we saw it last year where, he held Boston out in the first round, helped them out, helped win an NBA Finals game when he came back against the Mavs. And that's been his story his whole career. Like, if you trade for Porzingis, he's going to miss time with an injury or whatever, or an ailment.
Whatever's going on there, yeah.
Yeah. But, when you have somebody, that size and that skill, like, it's definitely worth I guess the hassle of that if you think he can put you over the edge. So I definitely think there would be a market for him. And Hauser, I mean, he kind of broke out last year from what I remember, being a decent role player who can shoot the ball from outside. Those type of guys are always, in demand for any team. So if Boston does decide to, shed some salary this year, kind of do like a gap year type of approach with Tatum out all of next year with the torn Achilles, I definitely think they'll have a market for some of these guys that they're willing to listen to.
Absolutely. So let's transition into our relatively new segment, and that is the steal. The steal is where you steal the pod, and we talk about something you want to talk about before we take a closer look at this week, your team. So what do you got for us?
I don't know. I just feel like for me personally, the sudden shift of like the schedule of this playoff series has really thrown me out of the loop. Like for the second round, the West Finals, it was literally every other day for 3 weeks. So for the NBA Finals to kind of give OKC a week off, and then you play game 1, you get 2 days off, play game 2, 2 more days off. I mean, it's kind of thrown me off for a loop a little bit. But I get it though. Like, you got to milk this last series out if you're the NBA. This is the last basketball we'll see until October. This is the most attention you'll see all year long. But yeah, I mean, not necessarily complaining, just a little bit of a weird feeling, just not playing every other day, basically.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. I actually gave you a hard time about getting this pod out, and then this morning I realized that the game is actually not until tomorrow. We are recording this on Tuesday, so I feel super intelligent. So I can definitely relate to what you're talking about, but I'm paying the penance by being up at the butt crack of dawn with you. Thank you for doing this with me, by the way. I know
For
you're
sure.
super busy. Let's take a closer look at the Thunder bouncing back, tying up the series. Last pod we looked at the finals from an Indiana point of view. So now let's take a look at it from your point of view. Before we dive into the games, let's talk about the limited Boston ties, because this is something that has always been interesting to me in that there doesn't seem to be like for example, a lot of Celtics fans seem to have latched onto the Pacers as their rooting interest in the teams that are left, which, you can see that in Rick Carlisle, former champion Celtics player, Aaron Nesmith, former Celtics draft pick. But on your end of the thing, Sam Presti's from Concord, Massachusetts, and Mark Daniel is from Leominster, Massachusetts. Why do you think that Celtics fans don't seem to have the same kind of, I don't know, spirit de corps or whatever you want to call it for the Thunder?
I just think it might just come down to a little bit of insecurity, if I have to say, because the Boston had this historic run last year, and not even a year later, you're seeing this other team, other franchise having maybe even a more historic run as well. Like I said, all last year, I picked the Celtics to win a title. Like, I think it was pretty obvious they're the best team all year long. They kind of cruised their way through the playoffs, beat the Mavs in 5. I think they swept these Pacers in the East Finals as well, even though it was pretty competitive sweep. And Tatum and Brown, they got their flowers after a bunch of years where they were pretty heavily scrutinized for finishing just short of winning a championship. And for them to kind of only have like not even a full calendar year to kind of enjoy that run and kind of beat their chest and say that this was one of the best teams of all time, for the Thunder to kind of follow up and kind of, I guess, one up them a little bit. Because if you look at the stats, I mean, they went 68 of 14, and that's with the fact that they missed like most of the roster throughout the year besides Shea and J-Dub. I mean, Chet only played like 30 something games this
year.
summer.
Most of the year, yeah. I mean, that's pretty hard to integrate someone back in like as well as they have. Absolutely.
Yeah. Best point differential of all time, plus 12.9. Did it in the West. I mean, Shea won MVP, one of the best scoring seasons ever. Up to this point, they kind of like cruised their way through the playoffs in a much tougher conference. I mean, they went 12-4 with a double-digit point differential. Made the West Finals look like a cakewalk, beating the Wolves in 5. And now in these playoffs, I know the series is tied 1-1, but the Thunder have looked thoroughly like the better team for these first 2 games. If you ask me, like the Pacers haven't even left for 2 full minutes in the series so far.
For 0.3 seconds in the first game.
Yeah,
a very critical 0.3 seconds, but just 0.3 seconds.
Like,
so,
I was gonna say, I was gonna say, like, all that plus the fact there's no players on the roster either, so it makes it easier to
no, that's fair, because it's kind of hard to have an avatar for your team if they aren't actually on the court as well.
Yeah,
it's really hard to kind of conceptualize in live game action how you're rooting for the structure of the cap. Yeah. So speaking of those other guys who we have seen on the floor for Boston at one point or another in history, what are your thoughts behind the Indiana guys with Boston ties and their imprint on this series? Let's start with Carlisle. Like, what have you seen from Carlisle in terms of his coaching?
Very, I mean, you could tell he's been through it, man. Like Mark said before the series started, like Rick has forgotten more about basketball than most people know, and you can definitely see like he's been around the sport all of his life. I think he started off in the 80s, and he's been in the league since, whether it's an assistant coach, player, or whatever. But very veteran coach. You can tell he's been here before, even though it was all the way back in 2011 with the Mavs. Very complimentary towards OKC as well. You don't really see that. Sometimes you get coaches like on the extreme side of the spectrum, like Chris Finch, who kind of throws subtle jabs at the officials and the type of stuff they let them get away with defensively, and the type of fouls Shea draws as well. But Rick Carlisle has been very, like I said, very complimentary towards OKC. Thinks highly of Shea. thinks highly of Mark. I know for a fact that's mutual as well with Mark and Rick. So, he's been super cool to, just kind of be around, hear what he has to say. And yeah, I mean, he's got the Pacers on this, back in the finals for the first time in 25 years.
Yeah, so I've heard rumbles that maybe some of the reason why he's so complimentary is to try to bait Mark into playing players he would rather have on the floor.
I've seen that for all playoffs, which is kind of hilarious, especially against New York in the East Finals for sure.
I mean, we had that last year with Jason Kidd saying, "I don't know, I think Jaylen Brown might be the best player on the Celtics." Hey, guy. So, what about Aaron Nesmith? What has he been as an opponent for the Thunder so far in this series? Like, what does he bring? Like, how do you see him for the rest of the series?
I'll say this about Nesmith. Like, he didn't have like a major scoring game last game. Let me look up. He had like 14 points last game, but it felt like 24 just with the shots he was making. Like, he was making some ridiculous outside shots, very demoralizing outside buckets. And, that kind of helped Indiana steal game one where they got like Nesmith, Miles Turner, Obi Toppin, like just these role players just hitting these tough, ridiculous shots. I mean, that Andrew Nembhard step back three against Shea went viral, looking like prime James Harden. So, Indiana, they kind of live and die a little bit with their outside shot, and you saw them live with that in the first game, die with that in the second game. So that's really going to be the area on the floor you really got to concentrate on a little bit if you're OKC, because, Indiana, like, they might not have the true, I guess, go-to number one scorer that can get you 30 points like Shea, but they got like 5, 6, 7 guys who can each get you 10 plus points, and that eventually adds up.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little big picture stuff before we dive into the actual series. What in this second apron, cap, I don't know, sphere that the NBA is currently stuck in, what is the Thunder's future looking like? Because I know a lot of teams, particularly when they get to roundabout where the Thunder are in terms of their development curve, you have to start paying guys, right? And that can make things difficult. So where does the Thunder sit in terms of their short and near-term future?
Well, the crazy part about this is most of the roster is still on the rookie deal, and they made the finals. But I don't know, like, from my sense of things, like, I think the plan's pretty simple. They're gonna offer Shea the Supermax this offseason or the next offseason. I think probably wait till next offseason, because that's when he'll be able to make a lot more money, or he's like making over $80 million a year. He'll be the first guy ever to do that. Which is kind of crazy to think.
I remember when teams' entire salary cap was considerably less than that. Oh my goodness. Anyway, I'm old.
Chad and Jalen Williams, they'll both be extension eligible this summer. I'm assuming those deals are going to get done. That's going to get them locked down for, 4 years plus their last year in the rookie deal next year as well. And then, I mean, that's really it. Like, that's your big free right there. Like, those are the free guys you need to build around and have for the long term. And the rest of the roster, I mean, you built up all this draft capital. That way you can, like, get guys in and out the rest of the way. Casey Wallace has been really good. You kind of hope he kind of stays long-term as well. But he's still on his rookie deal for a few more years. Lou Dort's on a great deal. Guys like Aaron Wiggins, Isaiah Joe are on super team-friendly deals as well. Caruso got recently extended back in December. Hartenstein's under contract for 1 more year at least. So I'm assuming, like, they're going to run it back next year, regardless of what happens this series. And then after that, I mean, who knows? But like I said, as long as you got Shea, Chet, and J-Dub locked down for the foreseeable future, like, you can tweak the rest of the roster. And like I said, Sam has enough draft capital to make any deal work where maybe they get like another lottery pick gifted to them by the Clippers or the Rockets or the Mavs or the Nuggets. They have like their cookies. They got their hands in so many cookie jars. It's kind of insane.
It's disturbing, frankly. Like, you guys have like 20% of the first round picks in the league, roughly. It's just...
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, they have a lot of leeway to keep a competent roster where you're not 2-3 years from now, you're not just so top heavy where it's those 3 guys and then a bunch of, like, not real depth.
Yeah, I'm a little irritated about that. It's looking like you guys might be a second apron team as soon as next season, depending on how things go. But it won't really matter because you have all the ammunition you need to get back out of it and back into it in pretty quick order when you feel the need to. So that's not really a very sustainable strategy for the rest of the NBA or the Celtics. But like, what's something that the Thunder have done that the Celtics might be able to use themselves to help navigate their own very complicated and historic potential cap crunch that's coming?
Well, I think they already kind of did it. I mean, with the like we talked about earlier, like the Drew Holiday trade, like that was them making a move on the margins that worked out greatly. I mean, they got him from Portland on a pretty good deal, and you saw the Thunder kind of do a similar move with Caruso, where they just did a player for player swap with him and Josh Giddey, and look how that deal has turned out. So
Yeah.
I really think the best thing Boston can do is probably look across the league, see if there's like any disgruntled veterans on expiring deals or team friendly deals, and see if they can I guess trade for them and hope that if they come back to a winning environment that they'll amp up their play style for sure, because that's what kind of happened with Caruso. Like he was in the background of the league's mind for the last 4 years on bad Chicago teams, and now that he's back on a mediocre.
You blame him?
Yeah. No, he was doing his thing. He made a couple all defensive teams in Chicago, but nobody cared because the Bulls are the Bulls. But now that he's back in OKC in the finals, you're seeing everybody kind of be like, "Oh yeah, this guy's like one of the best defenders in the league." Period. So,
to be clear, no offense to any Chicago Bulls fans if you happen to be listening. Just y'all deserve a better front office, and you definitely deserve better owners. That's just
yeah.
I think we're all tired of seeing whatever it is they're not doing over there in Chicago. If you were the owner, A1 Bill Chisholm of the Boston Celtics, what would you have them do in the current situation?
Man, like I said, probably obviously keep Jaylen Brown. We talked about it a little bit as well, but keep him for sure. Like I said, I think they got a good roster. I think they could be a nice competitive team next year. And when you already have a gap year with Tatum out next year, like that's all you could really ask for as a fan base and franchise is just be competitive, be interesting. And like I said, the East being the East, like maybe you can have like a playoff run in you as well. Mazzulla is one of the best coaches in the league as well, so maybe he'll get the most out of his roster. But I mean, if you got to like shed salary to avoid the second apron, definitely do that. But besides that, like I would try to keep most of the guys on the team because I still think you guys got a pretty solid team, even with Tatum out for next year.
Yeah, I'm of the same mind in that I think that, Tatum obviously is a no-brainer. You don't let a potentially generational talent walk just for whatever other thing. I mean, I don't know, maybe if like Jokic was available or something on that level, obviously, but generally speaking, same with Jaylen Brown, but to a little bit lesser of a degree. And then even like players like Derek White, and because of his contract plus production, Peyton Pritchard, it's really hard to get guys like that you kind of need to compete for a title in the NBA the way that things are now. Beyond that, I think everything is in play. So let's talk about the games. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, that's pretty fair to say because, I mean, like I said, like I really think next year is just going to be a one-year thing. Like I would not let next year kind of, determine your long-term future for the franchise because Tatum's only 27 years old. And we've seen recently torn Achilles, like while they're still a little bit career-altering, like they're a lot easier to come back by for sure.
Particularly given everything that supposedly has gone right for him. I am not the right kind of doctor to comment on if it actually has gone right. But we have read a lot of press saying that just about everything that happened as far as these things go, it was as good as it can be for his recovery in terms of his age, in terms of how quickly it was addressed, how it was addressed. So he's actually, I think, the timing, unfortunately. Yeah. So speaking of finals that the Celtics are not in your view, what went wrong in game one for the Thunder?
Yeah, I think the best way to describe that game one is to say that not only did the Thunder leave meat on the bone, they let the 5-course meal on the table. They didn't even touch the plate. Yeah,
there was nobody scoring off the bench in that game, like unlike game two.
Not only that, but like, they got the turnovers, obviously. Like they pivoted to Case and Wallace over Hardenstein because of that. Better perimeter defense, more disruptions in the passing lane. They got 25 turnovers, 17 in the first half, but they only scored 11 points off of those turnovers. Like, which kind of nullifies the whole value of winning the possession battle, where you take. I think they finished with like 18 more shots than Indiana, and it didn't matter because they weren't able to finish the job on the other end. And you're playing with fire as well, leaving Indiana within striking distance all game. I remember for the first 3 quarters, I was like, yeah, the Thunder were leading by 10, 12, 15 points, but it should be by a lot more. And that eventually came back to bite them in the fourth, where Indiana just had some unreal shot making by the role players. And then, Shea misses the mid-range jumper to really, in the final seconds, to really close it off. Neesmith gets the rebound. Halliburton, runs the fast break, scores the deep 2-pointer that, in a homage of Kevin Garnett a little bit. And just flat out steals game 1. And, when you're the road team, that's all you need to do for these first 2 games. And, they say, a playoff series doesn't start until the road team wins. And we already signed for 1 game.
Yeah, that was one of the most absurd finishes. And I'm not just talking about the last second make by Halliburton, but just like the last 3 minutes in particular. Everything had to go exactly as it did for the Pacers to walk away with a victory, and it happened right in front of us. So
I said, if you replay those last few minutes, the Thunder probably went 99 out of 100 times.
Yeah,
it's just that was the one time it didn't work out for them.
Yeah, talk about a year of wild playoff/lottery odds. Everything seems to be pretty wild this season, and it's been great to view. Not probably to Thunder fans, but I'm pretty confident you guys are in a great position moving forward, particularly after Game 2. What went different in it?
I just think everybody played a lot better. Game 1, Shea was pretty good for his standards, 38 points on 30 shots. Lou Dort was great. Everybody else, though, was kind of, disappointed a little bit. In Game 2, you kind of saw the Thunder go back to what they've been doing all year and just dominate defensively, go on these extended runs, lead by double-digit points for most of the game. I feel like Shea's processing was a lot better this game. He had an efficient 34 points, 8 assists, 5 rebounds, 4 steals. That's Shea at his peak right there, being that efficient of a scorer. Jalen Williams was better, 19 points. Chet played a lot better, 15 points, 6 rebounds. And off the bench, you had Caruso with 20, Wiggins with 18. So yeah, those five guys definitely led OKC to the win. Indiana, kind of regressed a little bit from the outside as well. Halliburton.
They really did not seem like they were as focused, even close to as focused as they were in Game 1, even when considering the fact that they were doing much worse in terms of the turnover battle and such.
Yeah, I was surprised. With 4 minutes left, Carlisle waved the white flag in a 17-point game. I was thinking, I'm a little bit surprised by that. We've seen crazier comebacks from you guys this year.
From them in particular, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
I don't
know. It just felt like I was just gonna say it just felt like the Thunder went back to what they've done all year, and Indiana kind of looked like a team that was just happy to get split and head back home.
Yeah. Do you think that the change of the starting lineup had anything to do with it? Like they needed to get used to that feel?
I definitely think it caught them by surprise. It caught me by surprise, if I'm being honest, because they started Hardenstein at center, Hardenstein and center, Holmgren at 4. That's been the starters for the first 3 playoff rounds. So I was pretty shocked when I saw before Game 1 that they pivoted from that and went with Wallace and over Hardenstein. And it shook them a little bit. They had 17 turnovers in that first half in Game 1 as well. So you definitely saw them take a minute to kind of adjust to it. But I don't know. I like the starting lineup change. I think it works well against Indiana as well.
It makes sense, but it was very weird to see the dominant team adjusting in advance, even though we all knew that was probably coming in some way. You just kind of thought it might be like a shorter hook for the starters to start.
Yeah, I definitely got that sense as well. I've from the national perspective of things, it feels like people have, I guess, criticized the move, saying why are the Thunder adjusting to the Pacers already? That's just a sign of, I guess, being scared of them or whatever. But for my side of things, it's Kayson's been Kaysen started like 40+ games this year. Like he's been kind of their unofficial sixth starter just because of the injuries. So it's not like he was, this was new territory for him. Their 2 wins against Indiana in the regular season were with Kaysen starting as well. So like I said, I think it had its desired effect with the amount of turnovers they created. It's just that just because they weren't able to finish on the other end, you had a lot of people questioning the move. But I think game
the
2
same national media was also going on and on and on and on about how critical it was going to be to do that at some point in the game. So it's just like, well, so the criticism, you don't like win in the game.
Yeah.
Your suggestion happened.
So yeah, like I said, it had its desired effect. Like the Pacers, turn it over a bunch. Halliburton, for his first 2 games, besides that game winner, Halliburton's been pretty quiet as well. So, because of a game 1 anomaly where they weren't able to complete the steal and score sequence, you have people questioning the move. But you saw what happened in game 2. They stuck to it, and they ended up winning pretty comfortably.
Indeed. Speaking about, we touched on this briefly in terms of the coaching. Who do you think, if anyone, is winning the coaching battle so far in the series, and why?
Oh man, I think it's a little bit too early to tell in the series. I think both coaches have done pretty good. Like I like Mark going with Kaysen as a starter, and besides the whole pulling the plug a little bit earlier than I expected from Carlisle in game 2, like I like what he's done so far as well. Like these are 2 of the best coaches in the league. Mark won Coach of the Year last year. Carlisle, who Carlisle is, like if you watch basketball long enough, one of the best coaches, period, ever. So I don't think either of them is, significantly outcoached the other, at least not yet. But I mean, these are 2 of the best minds in the game. So, I mean, I'm expecting some crazy stuff from here on out.
So speaking of, you are in Indiana. The series has shifted there for the next 2 games. What should we be watching for specifically in game 3, but also potentially game 4?
I really think game 3 is going to tell you just how far this series goes. Like if OKC manages to come here, beat Indiana on the road, they kind of struggle on the road these playoffs. They're only 4-3. So if they can come here, get game 3, then everybody who picked OKC to win 5 might be feeling a lot better about the prediction for sure. But if Indiana comes in here, wins game 3, I think we could be in the long haul for a series here for sure. That might go 6 or 7. So I really think game 3 is going to be the pivotal game that decides the series length. Either way, I still think OKC is going to win the series. It's just whether it's going to be in 5 or 6 or 7 games is what's going to be decided with game 3.
So touching on that, we both made a prediction for Thunder Wire on your site as to how many games we thought this was going to be. Full disclosure, 6 games, Thunder. You went 5. From what you have seen so far, would you change your prediction or no?
I know that would require OKC to win 4 in a row, but I think it's doable. Like, if you look at the first 2 games and just ignore what the series count is, like the Thunder have been the better team on the floor, on the scoreboard. Like I said, the Pacers haven't even left for 2 full minutes for the first 2 games. Like they stole that game 1. And like I said, I like this Indiana team. Like they got hot at the right time. They took down some giants on their way to the NBA Finals. Halliburton's had his moments. If game 3 or game 4 comes down to the clutch, like the Pacers might have the edge there just because of their experience. Like we're already seeing that in game 1. But I don't know. Like I think OKC. I don't think it's far fetched to say OKC could win. I guess 4 in a row against Indiana because I just think that's just how good of a team they are. They've been one of the best teams ever. Like I know, and the numbers back it up, and more people are starting to kind of realize that a little bit. Like I said, it's kind of like Boston last year, where it took them until they won a championship for people to realize, yeah, that was probably like one of the best teams ever. And I think we're seeing similar, I guess, reactions and conventional wisdom finally catching up to reality until the Thunder actually do it. But yeah, like I said, I'll stick with OKC in 5 just because
love it.
I believe in this team.
I'm still sticking to 6, just because I think that they're going to have one game in the remainder of the series where they just light the Thunder up from beyond the arc. But I don't think they have the tools to win the series outright. I love being proven wrong by this team, but it seems pretty unlikely. My co-host Alex has been a big fan of saying that the Thunder have looked like the best team all season long, just like Boston, to your point, and he expects them to win as well. Anything we missed about this series, about anything we've been talking about?
Not that I could think of. I mean, like I said, Caruso's been awesome. Hardenstein off the bench, he's been killer for them. Like, he's adjusted really well to that role. Like last year against the Pacers, I know completely different circumstances considering he was on the Knicks last year. But he's been really good he got playoff before against Indiana last year in the playoffs, but he's been really good for them this year in his role, or in the series in his role. Lou Dort's had his moments. Cason Wallace has had his moments. Just to really, you're seeing everybody kind of chip in a little bit for these first two games.
Hartenstein being more aggressive in game two, like putting the ball on the floor and attacking the cup, that was really fun to watch. I maybe he does that, but that's new to me.
Yeah, they definitely run some DHO actions through him as kind of their secondary offense as well. And his rebounding was definitely valued as well in game two because they were killed on the boards in game one. His screening has also helped out as well with Shea and J-Dub whenever they drive to the baskets. So, and him and Shea have a little bit of a pick and roll chemistry as well. You saw that kind of center to center lob that they had in game two. But he's been awesome so far this series. Like, he's adjusted really well to his role off the bench. And, just kudos to him as well, being kind of a, underrated contributor for these first two games.
Sure. Well, before we get you out of here and have our closing segment, where can our listeners find your stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I write daily articles at OKC-ThunderWire.com. You'll find all types of finals coverage there. Especially this time of the year, I'm like really amping it up, really taking advantage of the extra eyes on the team. So you can just go in there. You just go on that site and you'll find coverage about this team and reactions and analysts to the series so far. And then obviously you can follow me on Twitter at Almanza 1007. That's spelled CALMANZA 1007. I tweet there all the time. Too much, really. It's a little bit of a problem, but
it's okay. It's all good. So we do.
I tweet there a ton. But yeah, those are the two places you can really find me at.
Very cool. And of course, listeners know if you are not on our YouTube channel or listening to our usual feed, you can also find this pod and my work on Celtics Wire, the sister site to Thunder Wire. Let's do something to remember. This is a segment where you can give us, or forget for that matter, something to remember or forget that happens in the NBA with the Thunder in general, in your personal life. It doesn't matter what it is. I'll go first just to give you a moment to think. For me, I think the thing to remember for this episode is seeing the home atmosphere of the Thunder in their own arena. They might be louder than the Boston Garden when they're in the finals, which is an impressive feat because that is one of the loudest. It's like standing next to an airplane engine, basically, except for you do it for 2 hours and some change. What do you have?
Yeah, I can definitely attest to that too, by the way. I'm pretty sure I have long-term hearing damage. I'll catch up to me.
Yeah, bring some earphones, man. Don't do that to us.
I guess something to remember is just how lucky I've been in these playoffs because all these series have been drivable. I mean, Memphis, drivable, 7 hours. Denver, drivable, 12 hours. Minnesota, drivable, 12 hours. Indiana, drivable, like 11 hours. So lucky me. Like, I've been able to – I was hoping, praying, whatever, that I would avoid any of the California teams. And if you look at the odds, like if you look at the field from the play-in to now, it's kind of incredible just how much things have, like, really – shaken out for me. And, that said, I'm expecting some serious regression to the mean next year where, OKC is playing like the Warriors and the Lakers in the first 2 rounds.
Well, enjoy this run because, it's going to be special for you too. Soak it all in. You never know when you're going to be back. I mean, the Celtics thought they were going to be back playing y'all probably, right? We all thought that was the most likely matchup and that did not happen. So enjoy it, man.
Thanks, man. It's been super cool, man. Like I said, it's been very surreal just being able to like cover the NBA Finals, and it's like it's still the same game, still 48 minutes, 4 quarters, and all that, but all the pageantry and all the extra eyes that you get, it's been super surreal to kind of see firsthand, especially since I've been kind of covering this team since they've started this rebuild a little bit, so to kind of have a firsthand experience of them kind of working their way up to this point has been super dope.
Well, I'll get us out of here. If you haven't already liked and subscribed, please do so that way you are aware of when we are doing this stuff. Thanks for joining me today, Clemente. And Havlicek Stole the Pod.